He showed me proof my boyfriend was sleeping with his wife, then asked me to dinner, and everything changed when I realized he wasn't looking for revenge but for an ally. We met at Olive Garden on a Tuesday night, both of us still shaking, and he slid his phone across the table, showing me hotel receipts, text messages, even a shared Amazon account where they'd been buying each other gifts for months. "I don't want to destroy them," he said, stirring his water. "I want us to walk away with everything." I'm Rachel Ashford, 29 years old, and until 3 days ago, I thought I had my life figured out. My boyfriend Marcus and I had been together for 4 years, living in a decent apartment in downtown Portland, talking about engagement rings and maybe getting a dog. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, traveled constantly for conferences, came home with stories about boring hotel rooms and terrible airport food. I believed every single word. The man across from me was Julian Reeves, 34, software engineer with dark circles under his eyes and a wedding ring he kept twisting around his finger, like he couldn't decide whether to throw it out the window or never take it off. His wife Vanessa was Marcus's district manager, the person who supposedly mentored him, helped him close big deals, took him under her wing. Apparently, she'd taken him under a lot more than that. 3 days earlier, Julian had sent me a single text message. "We need to talk about Marcus Holloway and Vanessa Reeves. Meet me at the Starbucks on Morrison Street tomorrow at noon. Come alone." I almost deleted it, almost blocked the number, almost convinced myself it was spam, or a scam, or a psycho. But something about the way he wrote Marcus's full name, formal and careful, like he was drafting legal documents, made my stomach drop. At Starbucks, Julian looked exactly like his LinkedIn profile picture, except 20 years older in the eyes. He didn't waste time with small talk or apologies. He opened his laptop and showed me 6 months of evidence, meticulously organized in color-coded folders with dates and timestamps and cross-reference receipts. Hotel stays in Seattle that matched Marcus's work conferences. Dinner reservations at expensive restaurants on nights Marcus told me he was eating alone in his room. Venmo payments between their personal accounts with heart emojis and inside jokes I didn't understand. The shared Amazon account was what broke me. They'd been buying each other birthday gifts, anniversary presents, even Christmas ornaments. There was an order history for lingerie in Vanessa's size, delivered to a P.O. box Marcus never mentioned. They'd purchased matching luggage sets, his and hers bathrobes, even a coffee maker for what Julian discovered was a furnished studio apartment they'd been renting together for the past 8 months. "How did you find all this?" I asked, my voice hollow and distant like it belonged to someone else. "Vanessa got sloppy," Julian said, pulling up another folder. "She forgot to log out of Amazon on our home computer. I saw the shared account notification and started digging. Once I knew what to look for, it wasn't hard. They're not as careful as they think they are." I stared at the screen showing Marcus and Vanessa's smiling faces and matching profile pictures on some running app I'd never heard of. They'd done a 10K together in Vancouver 2 months ago. The same weekend Marcus told me he had food poisoning and needed to rest at his hotel. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "Why not just confront them?" Julian closed his laptop and leaned back, studying me with an intensity that should have felt invasive, but instead felt like he was the only person in the world who understood what I was feeling. Because confronting them accomplishes nothing except making us look like fools. They'll apologize, swear it meant nothing, beg for another chance. Maybe they'll even break up for a few weeks before finding new ways to hide it. We'll be the ones left broken while they move on with barely a scratch. "So what do you want?" "I want them to lose everything they think they're winning," he said simply. "And I want us to come out ahead, but I can't do it alone. I need someone who knows Marcus as well as I know Vanessa. Someone who has access to his accounts, his passwords, his trust. Someone who's willing to be smart about this instead of just emotional." That's when he suggested dinner. Somewhere public and boring where we could plan without drawing attention. Somewhere they would never think to look for us because why would the two betrayed partners be having friendly pasta together? Now, sitting across from Julian at Olive Garden while a waitress refilled our breadsticks and a family argued loudly 3 tables over, I watched him spread out an actual notebook, handwritten lists and timelines and diagrams that looked like he'd been planning a military operation. "Here's what I know," he said, pointing to the first page. "Marcus and Vanessa think they're being careful, but they're actually incredibly predictable. They meet every Tuesday and Thursday at that studio apartment. Vanessa tells me she has late meetings with regional directors. Marcus tells you he's at the gym or meeting clients. They think we're both too trusting or too stupid to notice patterns. What else? I asked, leaning forward despite myself, despite the part of my brain screaming that I should just walk away from all of this. Vanessa earns $180,000 a year. She has a 401k worth about $220,000, a stock portfolio her parents set up for her worth maybe $150,000, and we own our house jointly, currently valued at $670,000 with $200,000 left on the mortgage. We have a joint checking account with about $35,000 and a savings account with another $80,000. In our state, that's all community property in a divorce. I did the math in my head. My marketing degree finally useful for something. You're talking about over $600,000 in liquid assets plus the house equity. Exactly, Julian said, a small smile playing at his lips. But here's the interesting part. 3 months ago, Vanessa moved $40,000 from our savings into a separate account she thinks I don't know about. She's been steadily draining our joint finances, probably planning to file for divorce and claim I'm financially irresponsible or hiding money. Classic abuser tactic. Turn the tables before the victim realizes what's happening. And Marcus? What's Marcus worth? I felt sick calculating my boyfriend's value like he was a stock portfolio, but I did it anyway. He makes about $95,000 a year with bonuses. He has maybe $30,000 in his 401k. He's only been in the field 5 years. We split rent, so he probably has about $25,000 in his checking account. He's weirdly proud of his savings rate. He has a 2022 Honda Civic that's paid off, worth maybe $24,000. His parents left him some bonds when they died. He never told me how much, but he mentioned once they matured next year and would be enough for a down payment on a house. Julian made notes in his precise handwriting. So roughly $75,000 to $80,000 accessible, plus whatever those bonds are worth. Not much compared to Vanessa, but not nothing. The question is, how much do you share with him financially? We split everything 60-40 because he makes more, I said, hating how naive I sounded. Rent, utilities, groceries, even streaming services. But we don't have joint accounts. I kept my finances separate because my mom always said never to fully merge money until you're married. Smart, Mom, Julian said. That makes this easier. You're not financially entangled, so you can disappear cleanly once we're ready. But we need to make sure we're protected and they're not. Protected how? He flipped to a new page covered in more diagrams. Vanessa doesn't know I've been documenting everything. Every withdrawal from our accounts. Every suspicious charge. Every late night and weekend trip. I've been building a case for months, ever since I found that Amazon account. I have timestamps, receipts, even recordings of her phone calls where she talks to Marcus about me, about you, about their plans. Recordings? I felt cold. Is that legal? Oregon is a one-party consent state, Julian said calmly. I can record any conversation I'm party to without telling the other person. Technically, I wasn't party to Vanessa's phone calls, but they happened in our house on our Wi-Fi using our shared phone plan, so my lawyer says it's admissible. Besides, I'm not planning to use them in court unless I have to. They're insurance. You have a lawyer already? I contacted one the day after I found the Amazon account, he said. I'm not confronting Vanessa until I have every advantage lined up. That's where you come in. I need to know what Marcus has, what he's planning, what he thinks his future looks like. And I need to know it before he realizes you know anything. The breadstick I was holding crumbled in my hand. You want me to spy on my own boyfriend. I want you to gather information that protects you, Julian corrected. Right now, Marcus thinks you're clueless. He comes home to you every night, kisses you, probably tells you he loves you, all while planning a future with someone else. Do you think he's being fair to you? No. Do you think he deserves your loyalty? No. Then help me make sure we both walk away from this without losing everything we've worked for. Help me make sure they're the ones who end up with nothing. I looked at Julian's notebook, at the careful planning and cold calculation, and I realized something that should have terrified me, but instead felt like waking up. I'd spent 4 years building a life with Marcus. 4 years being the understanding girlfriend who never complained about his travel schedule or late nights or distracted weekends. I'd pushed aside little doubts, ignored small inconsistencies, convinced myself that love meant trust and trust meant not asking questions. But Marcus hadn't trusted me with the truth. He'd been lying for months, maybe longer, using my trust as a weapon against me while building a completely separate life with someone else's wife. And Vanessa had been doing the same thing to Julian, draining their accounts and planning her exit, while he probably thought they were just going through a rough patch. "What do you need me to do?" I asked. Julian's smile was small and sharp, nothing warm about it. "First, we need to know exactly what Marcus is planning. Check his laptop, his phone if you can, any paperwork he keeps at your apartment. I'm looking for evidence of hidden accounts, large purchases, anything that suggests he's moving money around or preparing to leave. If he's smart, he's probably already started protecting his assets. He keeps his laptop locked," I said, thinking about Marcus's paranoid habit of closing his computer whenever I walked into the room. "Do you know his passwords?" "He uses the same pattern for everything. His mom's maiden name plus the year he graduated college. I saw him type it in once when he asked me to check his email for a work message." "Perfect." Julian made another note. "What about his phone?" "Face ID, but I know his passcode backup. He told me once in case of emergencies." "Even better. Tonight when he's asleep, I need you to go through everything. Take photos of anything that looks relevant, bank statements, emails, text messages with Vanessa, anything. Send them to this number." He wrote down a different phone number than the one he'd texted me from. "It's a burner. Don't save it in your contacts. Just use it when you need to send me information." "What if he wakes up?" "Tell him you couldn't sleep and were scrolling social media. Play dumb if he sees you near his phone. You're good at that, right? Playing the trusting girlfriend who doesn't suspect anything." His words stung, but they were accurate. I'd been playing exactly that role for months without even realizing it was a performance. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I'm going to keep doing exactly what I've been doing. Being the oblivious husband who works long hours and doesn't notice his wife's affair. Vanessa thinks I'm clueless about technology, that I can't figure out how to use anything more complicated than email. She has no idea I've been tracking her location, monitoring her accounts, documenting every single move she makes. That's kind of terrifying," I said. "Good," Julian replied. "They should be terrified. They've been playing games with our lives, treating us like we're disposable. Time to show them what happens when underestimate the people they betrayed." Our food arrived, chicken parmesan for me and lasagna for Julian, and we ate in silence for a few minutes while the enormity of what we were planning settled around us. I kept expecting to feel guilty or scared, or like I should just walk away and let Marcus live his life with Vanessa. But all I felt was a cold, clear anger that made everything seem simple and obvious. "How long do we have?" I asked. "Based on Vanessa's account activity, I'd guess they're planning to make their move within 3 months," Julian said. "Probably right after Marcus's bonds mature. That would give them enough combined liquid assets to make a clean break, file for divorce, and start their new life together without too much financial pain. They're probably planning to wait until after Christmas. That way they can have one more holiday season playing happy families while they prepare their exit. 3 months, 12 weeks to gather evidence, protect myself, and make sure Marcus regretted every single lie he told me. 12 weeks to become someone other than the naive girlfriend who never asked questions. "I can do this," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "I can get you what you need." "Good," Julian said, raising his water glass. "To allies." I clinked my glass against his, the sound clear and sharp in the noisy restaurant. "To walking away with everything." That night, Marcus came home at 9:47 p.m., exactly when he said he would, carrying Chinese takeout and kissing my cheek like he did every Tuesday. "Sorry I'm late, babe. Client dinner ran long." The lie slid off his tongue so smoothly I wondered how many times he'd practiced it, how many Tuesdays he'd actually spent in that studio apartment with Vanessa while I waited at home believing his excuses. "No problem," I said, forcing myself to smile and take the food. "How was your day?" He launched into a detailed story about a difficult pharmacy account while I nodded and made appropriate noises, watching him with new eyes. Marcus was handsome in that generic sales guy way, tall and fit with perfect teeth and hair he spent too much time styling. I'd always thought his attention to appearance was professional necessity, but now I wondered if he was dressing for Vanessa, if she ran her fingers through that carefully styled hair while I sat home watching Netflix alone. After dinner, he settled on the couch with his laptop, typing emails and occasionally laughing at something on his screen. Probably Vanessa texting him, probably making plans for Thursday. I sat beside him scrolling my phone, playing the role of comfortable girlfriend so well I almost convinced myself nothing had changed. At 11:30 p.m., Marcus yawned and closed his laptop. I'm beat. Coming to bed? In a few minutes, I said. I want to finish this article. He kissed the top of my head, a gesture that used to make me feel loved and now made my skin crawl. Don't stay up too late. I waited 20 minutes after hearing his breathing even out into sleep before moving. My heart hammered as I crept to the living room where he'd left his laptop charging. My hands shook entering his password, expecting any second to hear him wake up and catch me. But the screen unlocked smoothly, displaying his email inbox with 3 unread messages from Vanessa. The first was professional, something about quarterly reports and regional targets. The second was sent at 8:34 p.m., right when he was supposedly at his client dinner. Miss you already. Thursday can't come fast enough. The third, sent at 9:15 p.m. while he was driving home to me. Can't wait to wake up next to you every morning instead of sneaking around. Just a few more months. I photographed everything with shaking hands, then opened his file folders. There was one labeled Personal Finance that I'd never noticed before, requiring a second password. I tried his usual pattern with different years until finally his graduation year plus Vanessa's birthday unlocked it. Inside were bank statements for an account I'd never heard of, opened 7 months ago at a credit union across town. The current balance was $47,000. I scrolled through the deposits, regular transfers of $2,000 every 2 weeks, exactly timed with his paychecks. He'd been siphoning money away from our shared expenses, claiming he needed to spend more on client entertainment while actually building a secret escape fund. There were also documents about his parents' bonds, maturity date January 15th, estimated value $89,000, instructions to transfer the full amount to his secret account, a saved Zillow search for 2-bedroom condos in Vancouver, where Vanessa supposedly had family. A spreadsheet titled New Budget that calculated living expenses for 2 people on a combined income of $275,000. They'd been planning this down to the last detail while I picked out paint colors for our bedroom and researched engagement ring styles I thought he might like. I photographed 43 pages of documents, sent them all to Julian's burner number, then carefully closed everything and returned the laptop exactly as I'd found it. My phone buzzed almost immediately. This is perfect. Check his phone now if you can. Marcus's phone was charging on his nightstand, face up showing the time, 12:47 a.m. I picked it up carefully, holding it at an angle to avoid the camera catching my face for Face ID, then typed in his backup passcode. The phone unlocked, displaying 23 unread messages, most from Vanessa. Their text thread made me physically nauseous. Months of "I love you" and "can't wait to start our real life together," and explicit planning about leaving their partners. Vanessa called me the roommate situation and discussed strategies for Marcus to extract himself cleanly without too much drama. Marcus called Julian the tech nerd and joked about how Vanessa deserved someone who actually satisfied her. There were photos too, hundreds of them. Marcus and Vanessa at restaurants I recognized from his supposed work dinners. Vanessa wearing the lingerie from the Amazon account, selfies in bed at the studio apartment, both of them looking happy and relaxed in a way I'd never seen Marcus look with me. I sent Julian the most damning screenshots, then opened Marcus's banking app. Besides the secret account, he had moved money around in other ways. His 401k had a loan against it for $15,000 taken 3 months ago, probably to furnish the studio apartment. His car title was signed over to some LLC I didn't recognize, probably a way to hide assets before a potential split. The most revealing thing was his Notes app, which contained a document titled Timeline. It laid out their entire plan. Continue affair until January 20th when bonds mature and Vanessa files for divorce. Marcus breaks up with me the same week, claims we grew apart. They both moved to Vancouver by February 1st using Marcus's new job offer at a pharmaceutical company Vanessa had connections with. Get married by summer, buy a condo with combined assets, start fresh where nobody knows their history. I photographed the timeline, every single detail of how they planned to discard Julian and me like we were inconvenient roommates instead of people they'd built lives with. Then I noticed one more note, dated just 2 days ago. Rachel still hasn't mentioned engagement. Good sign she's not expecting anything. Should be easy break. That note hurt worse than anything else. The casual dismissal of 4 years together, The assumption that I was so desperate and pathetic I wouldn't see it coming, that I'd just accept being dumped and move on quietly while Marcus started his perfect new life. I returned his phone to the nightstand, crept back to bed, and lay awake staring at the ceiling while Marcus snored peacefully beside me. My phone buzzed with a message from Julian. "You did good. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start planning." But I couldn't rest. My mind spun with rage and betrayal and the cold satisfaction of knowing things they didn't know I knew. They thought they were so clever, so careful, so ahead of everyone else. They had no idea they'd already lost. The next morning, Marcus woke up cheerful and affectionate, pulling me close and suggesting we grab breakfast at our favorite diner. I almost screamed at him to stop pretending, to just admit what he was doing and face me honestly. Instead, I smiled and said breakfast sounded perfect. At the diner, he ordered his usual while checking his phone constantly. Vanessa texting about their Thursday plans probably. I ordered pancakes I had no appetite for and pretended everything was normal while plotting his destruction. "You seem distracted," Marcus said, finally looking up from his phone. "Everything okay?" "Just tired," I lied. "Didn't sleep well." "You should take a nap today," he suggested, already looking back at his screen. "I have to work late anyway. Budget meeting with the regional team. Thursday, their studio apartment. Vanessa and Marcus together while Julian and I suffered separately, except now we weren't separate, and we weren't suffering blindly anymore. After breakfast, I met Julian at a park across town, somewhere Marcus would never think to look. Julian handed me a coffee and a thick folder. "I've been thinking about this all night," he said. "We have two options. Option 1 is the standard divorce approach. I file, present evidence of the affair, fight for my half of everything in court. It would take months, cost thousands in legal fees, and Vanessa's lawyers would drag it out while she continues hiding assets. We'd probably both walk away with something, but not everything, and they'd still have each other." "What's option 2? "Option 2 is more creative," Julian said, that sharp smile returning. "We don't confront them at all. We let them think they're getting away with it while we systematically dismantle everything they've built. We protect our assets, expose their hidden accounts, and make sure when they finally make their move, they discover there's nothing left to take." "How?" He opened the folder, revealing more of his meticulous planning. "Vanessa controls most of our money, but I'm on all the accounts. I can't withdraw large amounts without her noticing, but I can make small strategic moves that protect us both. The house is in both our names, so I can't sell it, but I can make sure she can't either by filing a lien for home repairs she never approved." "That's legal?" "Legally gray," Julian admitted. "But by the time it's sorted out, her timeline is destroyed." Meanwhile, I've been talking to her boss, the actual regional director, about some concerns regarding inappropriate relationships between managers and subordinates. I haven't mentioned names yet, just asked theoretical questions about company policy. I stared at him. "You're going to get her fired." "I'm going to let her get herself fired," he corrected. "If their relationship becomes public knowledge, which it will once someone anonymous sends HR those hotel receipts and matching Amazon orders, the company has to investigate. Vanessa's Marcus's direct supervisor. That's a fireable offense regardless of their personal situations. Marcus loses his job too. Different company, but same industry connections. Pharmaceutical sales is a small world." The brilliance of it hit me. They lose their incomes, which means they can't afford their Vancouver plan. Exactly. And without jobs, Marcus's bond money becomes his only lifeline instead of their Fresh Start fund. Vanessa's 401k gets frozen during divorce proceedings. Their whole perfect timeline collapses. "What do you need me to do?" Julian pulled out another list. "First, start separating yourself financially from Marcus. You said you split expenses 60-40. Stop. Tell him you got a surprise bonus at work and want to treat him. Take over the full rent for a few months. He'll love it because it lets him save more for his escape fund. But really you're establishing that you're financially independent and he owes you nothing. That will cost me thousands." "I'll cover the difference," Julian said. "Consider it an investment in our mutual success. Second, I need you to suggest he talk to a financial advisor. Say you read an article about tax-advantaged investments, that his bonds maturing could trigger capital gains he should plan for. Act like you're trying to help him optimize his finances." "Why?" "Because I have a friend who's a financial advisor, and he owes me a favor. Marcus will go to him, reveal all his accounts trying to get tax advice, and my friend will document everything. More evidence of hidden assets that we can use later. And third? Third, start keeping detailed records of everything Marcus tells you. Every work trip, every late night, every excuse. Write it down with dates and times. When he says he's at a client dinner, check his location if you can. Build a timeline that proves he's been lying systematically for months. We might need it to show a pattern of deception. I took the list, my hands steadier now. This is going to take time. We have until January, Julian said. That's 3 months to make sure we're protected and they're exposed. 3 months to turn their own plan against them. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I paid our full rent, telling Marcus I'd gotten a performance bonus and wanted to contribute more. He hugged me and called me generous while probably calculating how much faster he could save for Vancouver. I suggested the financial advisor, framing it as me being supportive of his career success. He went to the appointment and came home talking about tax strategies, never suspecting his hidden accounts were now documented by someone working with me. I tracked his location through the phone app we'd set up years ago for safety, back when I trusted him and thought knowing where he was meant security instead of evidence gathering. Every Tuesday and Thursday, his phone showed him at the same address across town, the studio apartment. I photographed the location data each time. I kept a detailed journal of his lies, noting every time his story didn't match his location or his spending. The client dinner that happened at the studio apartment address, the gym session that lasted 4 hours in a neighborhood with no gyms, the work conference in Seattle where his phone never left Portland. And I played the role of loving girlfriend so perfectly that Marcus never suspected anything. I laughed at his jokes, asked about his day, made dinner, and pretended to believe every word he said. It was easier than I expected, probably because I was finally acting with purpose instead of living in blind faith. Julian and I met twice a week at different locations, always public places where we looked like casual friends or colleagues. He showed me Vanessa's continued asset transfers, the steady drain of their joint accounts into her secret fund. He'd filed the home lien, claiming $35,000 in unauthorized repairs. Vanessa couldn't sell the house without settling it, and by the time she discovered the lien existed, her timeline would be ruined. He'd also sent the anonymous tip to HR about inappropriate manager-subordinate relationships, including enough detail that they'd have to investigate. The company had strict policies about workplace affairs, especially between supervisors and their reports. Vanessa and Marcus would both be terminated if the investigation confirmed what we already knew. How long until HR acts? I asked during one of our meetings. They have to interview witnesses, gather evidence, give both of them chances to respond, Julian said. I'm guessing 4 to 6 weeks, right around Christmas, which is perfect timing. Their holiday season is going to be memorable. Won't they suspect you sent the tip? They'll suspect a lot of people. Vanessa has enemies at work, other managers she stepped on while climbing the ladder. Marcus has co-workers who resent his success. HR tips are anonymous by policy. They can't prove anything. By mid-November, I'd documented 73 separate lies Marcus had told me. His location data never matched his stories. His spending showed regular charges at restaurants and stores near the studio apartment. His phone records revealed hundreds of texts and calls to Vanessa during times he claimed to be working or sleeping. I'd also discovered something new while going through his laptop again, an email exchange with a real estate agent in Vancouver about touring condos the week after Christmas. He'd already requested time off work, told me it was a sales retreat in Chicago. They were planning to look at their future home together while I thought he was at a professional conference. Perfect, Julian said when I showed him the emails. Let him go to Vancouver. Let them tour condos and dream about their perfect future. While they're there, I'm filing for divorce and having Vanessa served at work. The HR investigation will be concluding right around then, too. They'll come back from their romantic planning trip to find everything falling apart. What about Marcus? You're going to break up with him the day before he leaves for Vancouver, Julian said. Tell him you've been feeling disconnected, that you need space to figure out what you want. Make it sound like a break, not a breakup. He'll be relieved because it makes his exit easier. He'll go to Vancouver guilt-free, probably telling Vanessa that you initiated the split so it's even more perfect. And then while he's gone, you move out. Take everything that's yours, leave everything that's his, disappear completely. Change your number, block him on everything, gone. When he comes back, you're not there to manipulate or lie to anymore. You've already moved on. The plan was elegant and cruel, and exactly what they deserved. But I had one more question. What happens to us after? To you and me? Julian looked at me steadily. We walk away with everything. Vanessa loses her job, her marriage, and most of her assets trying to untangle the legal mess I'm creating. Marcus loses his job, his savings when he has to support himself without income, and his perfect future when Vanessa realizes he's not worth the trouble anymore. And we both start over, free and clear and richer than when we started. That's it? We just walk away? Unless you want something else? His tone was careful, neutral. I thought about it, about this strange partnership we'd built over weeks of planning revenge. Julian was methodical and brilliant, angry but controlled, hurt but not broken. We'd spent hours together plotting our partner's destruction, and somewhere in those hours, I'd stopped seeing him as just an ally and started seeing him as someone I actually liked. Maybe we see where things go, I said carefully, after everything settles, if we still want to. I'd like that, Julian said, and for the first time his smile reached his eyes. December arrived with early snow and the kind of bitter cold that made everything feel brittle and sharp. Marcus grew increasingly distracted, constantly texting and taking calls in the other room. He'd started working out more, buying new clothes, acting like a man preparing for a new beginning. Because he was. I played my part flawlessly. I suggested we skip the big family Thanksgiving this year, said I was stressed with work and needed a quiet holiday. Marcus agreed immediately, probably relieved not to pretend normalcy in front of my parents, who'd known him for 4 years. We spent Thanksgiving eating takeout and watching football, Marcus checking his phone every 5 minutes while I documented every distracted moment. Julian spent Thanksgiving with his sister in Seattle, establishing an alibi for when everything exploded. He'd told Vanessa he needed space to think about their marriage, that he was considering counseling. She'd agreed immediately, probably thrilled to have guilt-free time with Marcus while her husband worked on himself. She had no idea Julian was actually meeting with his lawyer, finalizing divorce papers and preparing restraining orders. On December 10th, the HR investigation concluded. Julian called me from a coffee shop, his voice tight with controlled excitement. They're being terminated tomorrow. Both of them. HR found enough evidence to substantiate the anonymous complaint: inappropriate relationship between supervisor and subordinate, misuse of company resources for personal travel, falsified expense reports where Vanessa approved Marcus's spending when they were actually together. Tomorrow, Vanessa gets called into HR at 9 a.m., Marcus at 11. They'll both be escorted out by security, standard procedure for termination with cause. No severance, no references, unemployment claims denied because it's a firing for misconduct. I sat down hard on my couch, the reality of it hitting me. This is really happening. This is really happening, Julian confirmed. You need to be ready. Marcus is going to call you panicking, looking for sympathy and support. You need to decide how you want to play it. I'd thought about this moment obsessively, rehearsed different responses in my mind. The satisfying option was to tell him I knew everything, to throw his betrayal in his face and watch him scramble for excuses. But Julian had taught me that revenge worked best when your enemy never saw it coming. I'll be supportive, I decided. Shocked and sympathetic. Tell him we'll figure it out together. Make him think I'm going to help him through this crisis. Good, Julian said. Let him lean on you while his world collapses. Then when you disappear, he'll realize he lost the one person who actually would have stood by him if he'd just been honest. The next morning, I went to work early and waited. At 11:47 a.m., Marcus called, his voice shaking. Rachel, something terrible happened. Can you talk? Of course, what's wrong? I just got fired. He sounded genuinely shocked, like he couldn't believe his careful planning had gone wrong. They said there was an investigation into inappropriate relationships and expense fraud. They wouldn't give me details, just escorted me out with security. They took my laptop, my badge, everything. 4 years with the company, and they treated me like a criminal. Oh my God, Marcus, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do? I don't know, his voice cracked convincingly. This wasn't supposed to happen. I had that Vancouver opportunity lined up, but now with this termination on my record, they might withdraw the offer. And without a job, I can't afford the apartment by myself. The apartment, not our shared home. Just the apartment. The burden he'd been planning to escape anyway. We'll figure something out, I said, keeping my voice steady. Maybe this is a sign you should explore other options. Didn't you say you had family in Vancouver you could stay with for a while? The pause was just a beat too long. Yeah, maybe. I have to go. I need to call some people. Can we talk tonight? Of course. I love you. Love you too. The words were automatic, meaningless. I hung up and immediately texted Julian. He called, panicking about the Vancouver job falling through. Perfect, Julian replied. Vanessa called me too, crying about wrongful termination and conspiracy theories. She thinks someone at work had it out for her. Maybe that manager she passed over for promotion last year. She has no idea I spent 3 months carefully constructing her destruction. Over the next week, I watched Marcus spiral. He called the Vancouver company, and they politely withdrew their offer, citing concerns about his employment history. He applied frantically to other pharmaceutical companies, but word had spread in the tight-knit industry about why he'd been fired. Nobody wanted the liability of hiring someone terminated for inappropriate workplace relationships. His bond money matured right on schedule, $89,000 deposited into his secret account. But instead of being a fresh start fund, it became his only safety net. Without income, he burned through $5,000 in 2 weeks, just on basic expenses. He finally admitted to me that he had to dip into savings, spinning a story about an investment that matured early. That's great, I said, watching him carefully. How much did you get? Not as much as I hoped, he lied. Maybe $30,000 after taxes. So he was still hiding the full amount, still planning his escape even as his timeline crumbled. Still thinking he could salvage this situation and disappear to Vancouver with Vanessa once the dust settled. On December 18th, exactly 1 week before Christmas, I executed my part of the plan. Marcus came home from another failed job interview looking defeated and exhausted. I'd made his favorite dinner, set candles on the table, created an atmosphere of comfort and safety. We need to talk, I said after dinner, my voice carefully gentle. His face went pale. About what? About us. About our relationship. I took a breath, playing my role perfectly. I've been feeling really disconnected lately, like we're just going through the motions. With everything happening with your job, I think maybe we both need some space to figure out what we really want. The relief in his eyes was unmistakable, even though he tried to hide it. Space? Like a break? Just temporarily, I assured him. I think I might stay with my sister for a few weeks over the holidays. Give us both time to think clearly without the pressure of being together every day. When we come back, we can reassess where we are. If that's what you need, Marcus said, and I could practically see him calculating how this made his life easier. I understand. Maybe it's good timing anyway, with the job situation so stressful. You're not upset? I'm surprised, he lied, but I get it. Things have been tense. Maybe some space will help us appreciate each other more. We hugged, a meaningless gesture between two people acting out a script. He probably thought he'd gotten incredibly lucky, that I was handing him a guilt-free exit before he even had to manufacture one. He had no idea I'd just given him exactly enough rope to hang himself. The next day, I took a personal day from work and moved out completely. I'd been gradually moving my important things to a storage unit over the past month, so all that remained were clothes and basic items. I packed everything in 4 hours while Marcus was at another job interview, left my key on the counter with a note saying I'd be in touch after the holidays, and disappeared. I didn't go to my sister's house. I moved into a furnished short-term rental Julian had helped me find, a nice 1-bedroom in a building with security cameras and restricted access. I changed my phone number, kept only one email account Marcus didn't know about, and blocked him on every social media platform. Then I waited for the explosion. Marcus tried calling me exactly 3 times before apparently giving up, probably too distracted by his own problems to chase after a girlfriend who'd made his life easier by leaving. He sent 2 texts to my old number. Hope you're doing okay, and Let me know when you want to talk. No desperation, no begging, just perfunctory checking of a box. Julian filed for divorce on December 20th. Vanessa was served at her sister's house where she'd been staying since losing her job. The papers detailed extensive evidence of adultery, financial misconduct, and emotional abandonment. They requested full dissolution of their marriage, equitable division of all community assets, including the house, and restraining orders preventing her from accessing their joint accounts. Vanessa called Marcus immediately, and I knew about it because Julian had installed monitoring software on Marcus's phone weeks ago, when Marcus carelessly left it unlocked at the studio apartment during one of their Thursday meetings. The software recorded every call, every text, everything. Julian knows, Vanessa sobbed on the recording. He knows everything. He's filed for divorce, and he has evidence, Marcus. Hotel receipts and bank statements, and he even has recordings somehow. My lawyer says we're going to lose everything. Slow down, Marcus said, though his voice shook too. What kind of evidence? Everything. The apartment, the Amazon account, text messages. He knew about us for months, and he was documenting it all. My lawyer says because I moved money into a separate account, it looks like I was preparing to defraud him. He's going to get the house, most of the savings, everything. What about us? Marcus asked. We can still go to Vancouver once this settles. Marcus, I don't have a job. You don't have a job. We don't have the condo deposit. We don't have anything. My lawyer fees alone are going to cost tens of thousands, and Julian is claiming the studio apartment rent as marital funds I spent on my affair. I have to pay him back for 8 months of rent. We have my bond money. That's not enough. We need at least $200,000 to make Vancouver work like we planned. Between lawyer fees and Julian's claims and my unemployment, we'll be lucky to have $30,000 between us by the time this is over. Then we adjust the plan, Marcus said, but he sounded uncertain now. We find jobs here, save up, try again in a year. A year? Vanessa laughed bitterly. Marcus, we're unemployable right now. Our terminations are on record. Our affair is going to come out in divorce proceedings. The whole pharmaceutical industry knows our names and why we got fired. We're not getting jobs in a year or 5 years. So, what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we need to take a break, Vanessa said, using the same words I'd used on Marcus. Let things cool down. Let the legal stuff settle. Then we can see where we are. The irony was delicious. Marcus was being dumped using his own escape strategy, being told by the woman he'd betrayed me for that she needed space, that maybe they'd reconnect later when things were less complicated. The same empty promises he'd probably planned to give me. You're breaking up with me? Marcus sounded genuinely shocked. I'm saying we need to be realistic, Vanessa said. This isn't working out the way we thought it would. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe we should have just stayed in our marriages. She hung up. Marcus sat in silence for 3 minutes according to the recording, then tried calling me. My old number was disconnected. He sent an email to my work account asking me to call him, that he needed to talk urgently. I didn't respond. Julian and I listened to the recording together in my new apartment, sharing a bottle of wine while their plans collapsed in real time. She's going to try to reconcile with me, Julian predicted. Probably claim the affair was a mistake, that she was going through a midlife crisis or mental health episode. She'll cry and apologize and beg for another chance because she's realized being with Marcus means poverty and social exile. Will you consider it? Not even for a second, he said firmly. I'm done with her. Once the divorce is final, I never want to see or hear from her again. She made her choice and now she gets to live with the consequences. What about the house? My lawyer is confident I'll get it in the settlement, Julian said. Vanessa can't afford the legal fight, and the evidence of her financial manipulation makes her look terrible to a judge. I'll probably have to buy out her equity share, but I've been saving for that. The house is worth $670,000 with $200,000 left on the mortgage. Her share of the equity is roughly $235,000. I'll offer her $180,000 to settle quickly, which is $55,000 less than she deserves, but better than what she'd get after paying legal fees to fight me. She'll take it? She'll take it. She's desperate and scared and realizing that burning bridges leaves you nowhere to go. He refilled our wine glasses. Marcus is going to crack soon too. He's going through his savings, he can't get hired, and the woman he blew up his life for just dumped him. Give him another week and he'll be begging you to come back. Julian was right. On December 27th, 2 days after Christmas, Marcus found my new email address somehow and sent a long, desperate message. He claimed the break had given him clarity, that he realized how much he loved me and needed me. He admitted he'd been distracted and distant, blamed work stress and financial pressure. He said if I'd just come back, he'd do better, be better, prove he deserved me. Not one word about Vanessa, not one acknowledgement of what he'd actually done. Just vague admissions of being a bad boyfriend and promises to change, expecting me to believe him and rescue him from the consequences of his choices. I didn't respond. I let him sit in uncertainty and desperation, let him wonder where I was and whether I'd ever come back. Let him burn through his bond money trying to survive without income. Let him wake up every morning in our old apartment, alone and unemployed and abandoned by everyone he thought he could count on. January arrived with harsh cold and the kind of clarity that comes from watching carefully laid plans succeed perfectly. Julian's divorce was proceeding exactly as predicted. Vanessa had accepted his settlement offer, signing away her rights to the house for $180,000 she desperately needed to pay her lawyer and cover living expenses while job hunting. She'd moved back in with her parents in their early 60s, explaining to them that her marriage had fallen apart and she needed time to rebuild her life. Marcus was in freefall. His bond money was down to $52,000 after 2 months of unemployment. He'd applied to 127 jobs according to his LinkedIn activity, received 3 interviews, 0 offers. The pharmaceutical industry had blacklisted him. He was looking at retail positions and gig economy work now, anything to stop the hemorrhaging of his savings. Our old landlord had called him about renewing the lease. Marcus couldn't afford the $400 monthly rent alone. He'd moved to a studio apartment in a worse neighborhood, a grim 650 square feet that cost $100 a month. His Honda Civic had been repossessed after he missed 2 payments trying to preserve his dwindling savings. He was riding the bus now, the same public transportation he used to mock as something unsuccessful people relied on. Julian and I met on January 15th, exactly 3 months after that first dinner at Olive Garden. We sat in a nice restaurant downtown, actually on a date this time instead of a planning session. The divorce papers had been signed. Vanessa was out of his house and out of his life. He owned everything free and clear, had his full salary and benefits, and looked 10 years younger without the weight of betrayal and deception. How does it feel? I asked. Like I can breathe again, he said honestly. I spent so long being angry and hurt, and now I just feel nothing toward her. She's a stranger who briefly disrupted my life and is now gone. That's it. No regrets about how we handled it? None. She and Marcus thought they were so clever that they'd planned everything perfectly. They had no idea they were the ones being played the entire time. He smiled. What about you? Any word from Marcus? He emails me every few days, I said, pulling up my phone to show him. Each one more desperate than the last. Last week he admitted he had to borrow money from his brother for groceries. Yesterday he said he's been diagnosed with depression and is asking if I'll go to therapy with him. Not couples therapy, regular therapy where I come support him while he processes his trauma. The audacity. Julian shook his head. Does he ever mention Vanessa? Never directly. He refers to mistakes I made and things I'm not proud of, but nothing specific. I think he's still hoping I don't know about the affair, that I'll think he was just a neglectful boyfriend instead of a cheating one. Should we tell him? I considered it. The satisfying option was to finally confront Marcus with everything I knew, to detail exactly how I discovered his lies and worked with Julian to destroy his perfect plan. But something stopped me. No, I decided. Let him keep wondering. Let him think his life fell apart through a series of unfortunate coincidences instead of deliberate action. It's worse that way, not knowing why everything went wrong or who to blame except himself. Cold, Julian observed, but he was smiling. I learned from the best. We ordered wine, expensive bottles we could easily afford on our combined salaries. Julian had gotten a promotion at his tech company, moving into a senior architect role that came with a $40,000 raise. I'd switched jobs too, taking a marketing director position at a competing firm that paid significantly better than my old role. We were both thriving while Marcus and Vanessa scraped by. I've been thinking, Julian said carefully, about what comes next for us. We've spent 3 months as allies and partners in crime, but I'd like to try being something more, if you're interested. I looked at him across the table. This man who'd started as a stranger with evidence of betrayal and become someone I genuinely cared about. We'd built something in the midst of destruction, found connection through shared pain and mutual revenge. It wasn't traditional or romantic in any conventional sense, but it was real. I'm interested, I said, but let's take it slow. No moving in together right away, no rushing into anything. We've both been through enough relationship trauma to deserve doing this right. Agreed, slow and deliberate and honest. He raised his glass. To new beginnings built on old endings. We clinked glasses, a mirror of that first dinner, but fundamentally different. Then we were wounded and angry and plotting destruction. Now we were free and successful and genuinely happy. My phone buzzed with another email from Marcus. Subject line, "Please, Rachel, I'm begging you." I didn't open it. He's persistent, Julian observed. He's desperate. There's a difference. The next escalation came 2 weeks later. Marcus showed up at my office building, having somehow figured out where I worked. Security called me saying there was a man in the lobby asking for me, becoming agitated when they wouldn't give him access. I went down to the lobby and saw him through the glass doors. Marcus looked terrible, 20 pounds thinner with dark circles under his eyes and clothes that hung loosely on his frame. He was arguing with the security guard, waving his phone like it contained proof he deserved to see me. I stepped outside. "Marcus, you need to leave." He spun around, relief and desperation warring on his face. "Rachel, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for months. Why won't you answer my messages?" "Because I don't want to talk to you. I thought that was clear when I moved out and changed my number." "But you said it was just a break, that we'd talk after the holidays. It's been 2 months. I need you, Rachel. Everything is falling apart, and I have no one else. That's not my problem. How can you be so cold?" His voice rose, drawing attention from people passing by. "After 4 years together, you just disappeared like I meant nothing to you." The hypocrisy was staggering. "Like you meant something to me? You were planning to disappear to Vancouver and start a new life with Vanessa. You spent 8 months living a double life, lying to my face every single day. So don't talk to me about being cold, Marcus. I learned it from you." His face went white. "You know, about Vanessa? I've known since October." I watched him process that information, saw the moment he realized his whole careful deception had been pointless. Julian Reeves called me. We met. We talked. We compared notes. And then we made sure you both lost everything. "What?" He looked genuinely confused. "Julian? You've been talking to Julian?" "We've been doing more than talking. We documented everything you and Vanessa did. Every lie, every secret account, every plan you made. We sent the evidence to your HR department. We exposed your hidden assets. We made sure your Vancouver dream died before it could start. And we did it while you both thought you were being so clever." Marcus stumbled backward like I'd physically struck him. "You're lying. Julian didn't know until December. Vanessa said..." Vanessa was wrong. Julian knew in September. He'd been investigating for months before he contacted me. And once we started working together, you never stood a chance. But the firing, the divorce, everything, that was all us. Yes. We destroyed you deliberately and methodically, and you never saw it coming because you were so focused on your own scheming that you didn't notice you were being played. He sank down onto a bench, his face buried in his hands. "I've lost everything. My job, my savings. Vanessa left me. I'm living in a shithole apartment working at Target for $17 an hour. My own brother won't return my calls. And you're saying you did this on purpose?" "You did this on purpose," I corrected. "You chose to lie and cheat and build a secret life. Julian and I just made sure you faced consequences for those choices. So yes, I'm saying we did this deliberately, and I'm not sorry. I loved you." His voice broke. "No, you didn't. You loved that I was convenient and trusting and easy to manipulate. You loved that I paid full rent while you saved money for your escape. You loved having a backup plan in case Vanessa didn't work out. But you never actually loved me, Marcus. If you had, you wouldn't have been able to do what you did. I made a mistake. You made hundreds of deliberate choices over 8 months. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. And now you get to live with that knowledge while everyone you wanted has moved on without you. I turned to walk back into my building, done with this conversation and this chapter of my life. Wait! Marcus called desperately. Are you with Julian now? Is that what this is about? You're dating him? I looked back at him, at this man who'd shared my bed for 4 years while planning to leave me, who'd lied to my face while I cooked him dinner and asked about his day, who'd treated my trust like a weapon to use against me. What Julian and I are is none of your business, I said. But I will tell you this. He's a better man than you could ever be, because when he discovered betrayal, his first instinct was to protect innocent people instead of calculating how to profit from it. So yes, we're together, and we're happy, and we built something real out of the wreckage you and Vanessa created. You're a bitch, Marcus spat, finally dropping the desperate nice guy act. I should have left you years ago. You were never good enough for me anyway. And yet you're the one who's lost everything while I'm thriving, I said calmly. Interesting how that worked out. I walked back into my building and didn't look back. Security escorted Marcus off the property and added him to the banned list. He tried calling from a new number later that day, but I blocked it without answering. He sent one final email that night. I hope you're happy with what you've done. You destroyed my life for revenge and you're going to regret it. I forwarded it to Julian with a single comment. I don't think I will. 3 days later, I got a call from an unknown number that turned out to be Vanessa. Her voice was cold and controlled, nothing like the sobbing woman from Marcus's recordings. You think you're so smart, she said without preamble. Seducing my husband to get back at me for being with Marcus. I didn't seduce anyone, I replied. Julian and I became friends through shared trauma. What we are now is none of your concern. He's using you to hurt me. Can't you see that? You're just his revenge affair, and when he's done proving a point, he'll dump you like trash. Funny, that's exactly what you did to Marcus. How is that working out for you, by the way? I heard you're living with your parents and working at Starbucks. The pause was satisfying. We all make choices we regret. I'm trying to rebuild my life and move forward. Maybe you should do the same instead of celebrating others' suffering. I'm not celebrating suffering, I said. I'm celebrating justice. There's a difference. You're bitter and vindictive, and you'll end up alone because that's what people like you deserve. People like me? I laughed. You mean people who don't destroy their families for a workplace affair? People who don't steal from their spouses and lie to everyone who trusts them? Because if those are the traits that lead to being alone, you're going to have a very lonely life, Vanessa. She hung up. I blocked her number and went back to work, unbothered by her attempt to make me doubt what Julian and I had built. That evening, Julian came to my apartment with takeout and wine. We'd been officially dating for a month now, taking things slowly, like we'd agreed. He'd met my friends and family, I'd met his. Everyone could see we were genuinely happy together, that we'd found something unexpected and real in the aftermath of betrayal. Vanessa called me today, he said over dinner. Told me you were manipulating me, and I'd regret choosing you over giving our marriage another chance. She called me too. Told me you were using me for revenge and would dump me once you got bored. They're desperate, Julian observed. Everything fell apart and they're trying to drag us down with them. Classic abuser behavior. Can't stand seeing their victims thrive. Do you ever feel guilty? I asked. About what we did? He considered it seriously. No, I feel satisfaction. They made calculated choices to hurt us, and we made calculated choices to protect ourselves. If they'd just been honest, just ended things like adults, none of this would have happened. But they chose deception and cruelty, so they got what they deserved. I don't feel guilty either, I admitted. I keep waiting for it, for some moment where I realize we went too far or were too harsh. But it never comes. All I feel is relief that I'm not with someone who could treat me that way. Same. Vanessa showed me who she really was, and I'm grateful I found out before wasting more years on her. He raised his glass. To us, the survivors. To us, I echoed. And to them, getting exactly what they earned. February brought an unexpected development. Marcus attempted suicide. His brother called me, furious and crying, saying I needed to know what my cruelty had driven Marcus to do. He'd swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills and was found unconscious in his apartment by his landlord who'd come to collect overdue rent. "He's in the hospital," his brother Daniel shouted over the phone. "He almost died because you couldn't forgive him for one mistake. Are you happy now? Is your revenge worth his life?" I felt a flicker of something, maybe guilt or horror, or simple human compassion, but it was quickly overwhelmed by cold clarity. Marcus didn't attempt suicide because I wouldn't forgive him. He attempted suicide because he destroyed his own life through months of calculated deception and couldn't handle facing consequences for his actions. That's not my responsibility. He loved you. He made a mistake with that woman, but he loved you and you broke him. He loved himself, I corrected. He loved the life he was building with Vanessa using my trust and Julian's money. What he felt for me was convenience and comfort, not love. And I'm not responsible for his mental health, Daniel. He chose this path every step of the way. If he dies, it's on you. No, if he dies, it's on him. But I hope he survives. I hope he gets the help he clearly needs. And I hope he learns that actions have consequences and other people aren't required to forgive betrayal just to make him feel better about himself. I hung up feeling shaken but resolute. Julian came over that night after I told him what happened. "Do you want to visit him?" he asked, "just to make sure he's okay?" "No, that's what he wants, for me to come running and validate that his pain matters more than mine. I'm not doing that. If he genuinely needs mental health support, there are professionals for that. I'm not his therapist or his savior." "Vanessa tried something similar last week," Julian admitted. "Not a real attempt, just a dramatic call saying she'd taken pills and couldn't live with the guilt. Her sister called me later saying Vanessa had taken 2 Tylenol and was fine, just wanted me to feel bad and come back." "It's manipulation," I said. "Final attempts to control us through guilt when nothing else worked, and we're not falling for it." Marcus survived. He spent 3 days in the psychiatric ward, then 2 weeks in an outpatient program. His brother called me once more, saying Marcus was getting help and asked if I'd be willing to meet with him as part of his therapy. I declined. Whatever healing Marcus needed to do, it wasn't my responsibility to facilitate it. In March, I got a letter from Marcus's therapist asking if I'd participate in a family therapy session. The letter explained that Marcus was working through issues of abandonment and needed closure with important people from his past. I wrote back declining politely but firmly, explaining that I wasn't family, that our relationship had ended due to his infidelity, and that my participation would not be therapeutic for either of us. Julian received a similar letter about Vanessa. He declined too. We weren't interested in being props in their recovery narratives, in absolving them of guilt to help them move on. They'd made their choices, and now they had to live with the aftermath without using us as emotional support systems. By April, 6 months after Julian first contacted me, our lives had settled into a comfortable new normal. Julian sold his house for $720,000, netting $520,000 after paying off the mortgage. He bought a smaller modern condo downtown for $380,000 cash, no mortgage, and invested the rest. His net worth had actually increased through the divorce. I'd been promoted to senior marketing director at my new company with a salary of $135,000, nearly double what I'd made before. I'd moved out of the short-term rental into a nice one-bedroom apartment in Julian's building, separate units on different floors, maintaining our independence while being close. We were genuinely happy. We traveled together, planned futures that didn't involve deception or hidden accounts, built trust slowly and carefully. We'd been forged in betrayal, but we weren't defined by it. We were 2 people who'd survived bad relationships and found something better in each other. Marcus got a job at a call center making $4,200 a year. His LinkedIn showed him smiling in a corporate polo, trying to project success while working entry-level customer service. He'd depleted his bond money completely, was living paycheck to paycheck in his studio apartment, taking the bus to work every day. The Vancouver dream was dead. The pharmaceutical career was dead. His relationship with his family was strained after his suicide attempt, and their discovery of why his life had fallen apart. Vanessa was working as the administrative assistant at a law firm, making $48,000 a year after her parents helped her get the job through connections. She'd moved into a one-bedroom apartment alone, her social media carefully curated to hide how far she'd fallen. She posted about self-care and growth and finding yourself, but anyone who knew her story could see the desperation behind the inspirational captions. They'd tried to contact each other a few times according to their digital footprints, but it never went anywhere. Whatever they thought they had together died the moment their plan collapsed. Without the thrill of deception and the promise of a better future, they were just two damaged people with nothing to offer each other. In May, I ran into Marcus's brother Daniel at a grocery store. He looked at me with open hostility. "I hope you're satisfied," he said. "My brother is a shell of himself. He goes to work, comes home, stares at the wall. He doesn't date, doesn't socialize, barely exists. That's on you." "That's on Marcus," I replied calmly. "I didn't force him to lie or cheat or plan to abandon me. I just refused to be his safety net when it all fell apart. There's a difference. You're cold. Marcus always said you were cold." "Marcus told you I was cold? That's interesting, considering he spent 8 months lying to my face while planning to leave me for someone else. But sure, I'm the cold one for not forgiving him on demand." Daniel started to respond, then stopped, some of the anger draining from his face. "He really hurt you, didn't he?" "Yes, and your brother hurt himself by thinking he could treat people like disposable conveniences. I'm not responsible for rebuilding him, Daniel. That's his work to do." I walked away, leaving Daniel standing in the produce section looking conflicted. Maybe someday Marcus would tell his family the whole truth about what he'd done, instead of casting himself as the victim of my vindictiveness. But that wasn't my problem anymore. June brought a surprising development. I got an email from a woman named Sarah, who explained she'd been dating Marcus for the past month. He'd told her he was divorced and had no kids, conveniently omitting that he'd never been married and had a long-term girlfriend he'd cheated on extensively. "I found your name in his email history," Sarah wrote. "I Googled you and saw you work at a marketing firm here in Portland. I don't know if you'll respond to this, but I wanted to ask if you know Marcus Holloway and if there's anything I should know about him before I get more involved." I stared at the email for a long time. This woman was a stranger, someone who owed me nothing and whom I owed nothing. I could ignore her message and let Marcus's past remain hidden, or I could give her the truth that no one gave me when I was naively trusting Marcus. I replied with a careful but honest email explaining that Marcus and I had dated for 4 years, that he'd had an affair with his married boss for 8 months while planning to leave me, that he'd hidden money and lied constantly before his entire plan collapsed. I attached no evidence, made no dramatic claims, just stated facts plainly, and told her to verify anything she wanted through public records or by asking Marcus directly. Sarah thanked me and said she'd end things with him. 2 days later, Marcus sent me an enraged email saying I'd ruined his one chance at happiness, that I was a vindictive witch who couldn't move on. I didn't respond, but I forwarded his email to Sarah with a note. This is who he really is when he doesn't get what he wants. She blocked him after that, seeing in his angry words the same manipulation and blame-shifting he'd probably used throughout their brief relationship. In July, Julian and I went on vacation to Costa Rica, a week of beaches and adventure and genuine joy. We posted photos of zip-lining and surfing and sunset dinners, not to rub anything in anyone's face, but because we were actually happy and wanted to share that happiness. Vanessa commented on one of Julian's photos. "Glad you moved on so easily. Some of us are still processing the trauma of abandonment." He deleted the comment and blocked her. "She can't stand that we're thriving," he said. "She expected us to be as miserable as she is, and when we're not, it breaks her narrative about being the victim. They both need us to be suffering to justify what they did," I observed. "If we're happy, it means they threw away something valuable for nothing. That's harder to accept than believing we were terrible partners who deserved to be betrayed." By August, 1 year after Julian first contacted me, we'd built something neither of us expected. A real relationship based on honesty and mutual respect. A partnership where we supported each other's successes instead of resenting them. A future we were excited about instead of anxious or uncertain. We didn't talk about Marcus and Vanessa much anymore. They'd become footnotes in our origin story, the catalysts that brought us together, but no longer relevant to who we were or where we were going. On the actual anniversary of that first dinner at Olive Garden, Julian took me back to the same restaurant. We sat at a different table this time, no evidence folders or detailed planning, Just two people enjoying pasta and wine and each other's company. 1 year ago, we were strangers united by betrayal, Julian said, raising his glass. Now we're partners building something real. I'd say we won. Completely, I agreed, clinking my glass against his. They lost everything trying to hurt us, and we gained everything by refusing to be victims. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they'd just been honest? If Marcus had broken up with you before starting something with Vanessa? If Vanessa had divorced me before beginning an affair? I considered it. Then we probably wouldn't have met. We'd have been hurt, but we would have moved on separately, rebuilt our lives alone. So in a weird way, their cruelty gave us each other. That doesn't make what they did okay. No, but it makes what we did necessary, and it makes what we built beautiful. We finished dinner and walked back to our building hand in hand, two people who'd been forged in fire and come out stronger. Marcus and Vanessa had tried to steal our happiness for their own, had calculated and schemed and lied, thinking they were clever enough to get away with it. But they hadn't counted on us finding each other. They hadn't counted on their victims being smarter, more determined, more willing to fight for justice. They'd underestimated the people they betrayed, and that miscalculation cost them everything. And we walked away with more than we'd started with. Better jobs, better finances, better partners, better lives. We'd turned their betrayal into our triumph, their deception into our bond, their cruelty into our strength. They'd tried to destroy us and ended up destroying themselves instead. And we'd built something beautiful from the wreckage they'd left behind. October arrived with falling leaves and the kind of crisp air that makes everything feel possible. Julian and I had been together for over a year now, actually together as a real couple rather than allies in revenge. We'd moved past the shared trauma that brought us together and built something that stood on its own foundation. I got a wedding invitation in the mail. My sister was getting married, and despite our strained relationship over the past year, she'd invited me to attend. I called her that evening. I wasn't sure you'd want me there, she admitted. We haven't talked much since everything happened with Marcus. You knew what he did, I said carefully. You knew he was cheating, and you didn't tell me. I suspected, she corrected. I saw him at a restaurant with a woman who wasn't you. When I asked about it, he said it was a work dinner with his boss. I believed him because I wanted to believe people don't lie about things like that. But you never mentioned it to me. Because I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to ruin your relationship over a suspicion. I'm sorry, Rachel. I should have told you what I saw. Maybe you could have protected yourself sooner. The apology felt genuine, and I realized I'd been unfair expecting my sister to know what even I hadn't wanted to see. I'd like to come to your wedding, I said, and I'd like to bring Julian, if that's okay. The guy whose wife Marcus was sleeping with? My boyfriend, I corrected. We've been together for a year. He's a good man. This is going to be the weirdest +1 situation ever, she said, but she was laughing. But yes, bring him. I want to meet the person who helped you come out of this stronger. At the wedding in November, my family met Julian properly for the first time. They'd heard the story in pieces, but seeing us together made it real. My parents loved him immediately, charmed by his dry humor and clear devotion to me. My sister cornered me during the reception. He looks at you like you're the most important person in the world, she observed. Marcus never looked at you like that. I know, I said, watching Julian talk with my father about software engineering. I didn't realize what I was missing until I found it. Do you think you'll marry him? Maybe, eventually. We're not rushing anything. We're just enjoying building something real. My cousin approached hesitantly, someone I'd been close with before everything fell apart. I heard Marcus is working at a call center now, she said, and that he tried to kill himself. Do you feel bad about what happened? No, I said simply. I feel bad that he chose to handle his consequences that way instead of getting genuine help and rebuilding his life. But I don't feel responsible for his choices. He created this situation, not me. That seems harsh. Is it harsh to expect adults to face the results of their own actions? Marcus spent 8 months lying and scheming and planning to abandon me. When it all collapsed, he expected me to rescue him and absolve him. I refused. That's not harsh. That's healthy boundaries. My cousin looked uncomfortable but nodded. I guess I never thought about it that way. Most people don't, I said. They think forgiveness is always the right answer, that moving on means letting go of justified anger. But sometimes the healthiest thing is to walk away completely and let people sit with what they've done. In December, I received a letter from Marcus. Not an email, but an actual handwritten letter, delivered to my office somehow. The security guard who gave it to me said a guy had dropped it off at the front desk with instructions to deliver it to me personally. I debated throwing it away unopened, but curiosity won. Inside was 3 pages of careful handwriting, Marcus's attempt at explaining himself and his life over the past year. "Dear Rachel," it began, "I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect anything from you anymore. But my therapist says I need to take accountability for what I did, to acknowledge the harm I caused without making excuses or expecting forgiveness. So here it is, my honest accounting of the worst year of my life and why I deserved every moment of it. When Vanessa and I started our affair, I told myself I wasn't really hurting you because you didn't know. I convinced myself that what you didn't know couldn't hurt you, that I was actually protecting you by keeping it secret. I told myself I was just exploring options, keeping my choices open, being smart about my future. I was lying to myself as much as I was lying to you. The truth is, I liked having both of you. I liked coming home to you, to stability and comfort and someone who loved me without conditions. But I also liked the thrill of Vanessa, the excitement of sneaking around, the validation of being chosen by someone successful and powerful. I thought I could have both forever, or at least until I decided which life I wanted more. You were my safety net, and Vanessa was my adventure, and I genuinely believed I was clever enough to balance both until the right moment to choose. When it all fell apart, I blamed everyone but myself. I blamed you for being cold and unforgiving. I blamed Julian for being vindictive. I blamed Vanessa for dumping me when things got hard. I blamed my company for firing me over a personal matter. I blamed the whole pharmaceutical industry for blacklisting me. It took months of therapy and a failed suicide attempt, and losing literally everything I'd worked for to realize I was the problem. Not you, not Julian, not bad luck or unfair circumstances. Me, my choices, my selfishness, my cruelty. I treated you like an option instead of a person. I stole time from you by lying about where I was and who I was with. I stole your ability to make informed choices about your own life by hiding mine from you. I stole your trust and weaponized it against you every single day for 8 months. And when you found out, when you chose to protect yourself instead of rescuing me, I acted like you were the one who'd betrayed me, like you owed me forgiveness and support despite everything I'd done. The entitlement is staggering in retrospect. I'm not writing this to ask for anything. I know we'll never speak again, and I've accepted that. I'm writing because you deserve to know that you were right about everything. Right to walk away. Right to protect yourself. Right to build a new life with someone who actually deserves you. I hope you're happy. I genuinely mean that. I hope Julian treats you better than I ever did. I hope you've moved on completely and rarely think about me except as a cautionary tale about trusting the wrong person. As for me, I'm working on becoming someone I can live with. Someone who takes accountability instead of making excuses. Someone who treats people like they matter instead of like they're disposable. It's hard and humiliating, and I fail more often than I succeed, but I'm trying. I'll never stop regretting what I did to you. Not because I lost you, though I did lose the best thing in my life through my own stupidity, but because I hurt you deliberately and repeatedly, and you didn't deserve any of it. I'm sorry. It means nothing at this point, but I'm sorry. For the lies, for the betrayal, for every moment of trust I broke, and every day of your life I wasted. I hope someday I can be someone who deserves forgiveness, even if I never receive it. Until then, I'll keep working on becoming less of the person I was and more of the person I should have been. I wish you every happiness, Marcus. I read the letter 3 times, looking for manipulation or blame shifting or subtle attempts to make me feel guilty. But it seemed genuine, a real accounting of his failures without excuses or expectations. It didn't change anything, didn't make me want to respond or reconnect, but it confirmed something important. Marcus was finally taking responsibility. Maybe too late to salvage his life or rebuild what he'd destroyed, but better late than never for his own growth. I showed the letter to Julian that evening. He read it carefully, then handed it back. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Nothing," I realized. I don't feel angry or vindicated or sad. I just feel nothing toward him. He's become a stranger who once hurt me, and now he's dealing with the consequences. That's it. Same with Vanessa, Julian said. I saw her last month at a coffee shop. She was with friends laughing at something on her phone. She looked happy for a moment, then saw me and the expression died. I nodded politely and left. Felt nothing. That's probably the real revenge, I said. Not that we destroyed them, but that we moved on so completely they've become irrelevant. They wanted to matter to us, even negatively, and now they don't matter at all. In January, Julian and I celebrated 2 years since that first Olive Garden dinner. We went to a different Italian restaurant this time, wanting new memories instead of dwelling on old ones. I've been thinking, Julian said over dessert, about us, about our future, about making this official. My heart quickened. Official how? I'd like to ask you to marry me, he said carefully. Not now, not tonight, but someday soon when the moment is right. I wanted you to know it's coming, that I'm serious about building a life with you. Is that something you'd want? Yes, I said without hesitation. Yes, I'd want that. Good. He smiled, relaxed and genuine. Then I'll start planning how to ask properly. Fair warning, it won't be anything elaborate. Probably just us somewhere meaningful, something quiet and real. That sounds perfect. 2 months later, Julian proposed at the park where we'd met so many times to plan our revenge. He'd chosen the same bench where we'd sat comparing notes about Marcus and Vanessa's lies, where we'd plotted their downfall while falling for each other without realizing it. This is where we started, he said, kneeling in front of me while early morning joggers ran past. 2 hurt people trying to protect themselves from more pain, and it became something beautiful. Will you marry me, Rachel? I said yes through tears, accepting the simple, elegant ring he'd chosen. We sat on that bench for an hour, talking about our future and our past, and how far we'd come from those first desperate meetings. My family was thrilled when I told them. My sister joked about how this was the most unconventional love story she'd ever heard. My parents welcomed Julian fully into our family, no hesitation or judgment about how we'd started. We set the wedding for the following fall, giving us time to plan something meaningful. Nothing huge or expensive, just our closest people celebrating something real that had grown from unexpected circumstances. I never responded to Marcus's letter, but I kept it in a drawer, not as a trophy of his suffering, but as a reminder that people can change if they choose to do the work. I hoped he was genuinely becoming better, not for my sake, but for his own and for any future relationships he might have. Vanessa tried to reach out to Julian one final time after hearing about our engagement through mutual industry connections. She sent an email congratulating him and suggesting they meet for coffee to find closure. He declined politely, saying he'd already found closure and wished her well in her own journey. She didn't respond, and he blocked her email after that, finally cutting the last thread connecting him to that part of his life. As summer approached and our wedding planning intensified, I reflected on the strange path that had brought Julian and me together. If Marcus had been honest, if he'd ended things properly before starting with Vanessa, I would have been hurt, but I would have moved on alone. I never would have met Julian, never would have discovered this partnership that fit so perfectly. But I wouldn't change anything. Not because the betrayal was worth it, but because the outcome was better than anything I'd imagined. I'd found someone who matched my values and my strength, who'd been through similar pain and chose growth instead of bitterness. We'd taken the worst moments of our lives and built something beautiful from them. Marcus and Vanessa had tried to steal our happiness for themselves. Instead, they'd lost everything while pushing us toward each other. They'd calculated and schemed and lied, thinking they were clever and careful, but they'd underestimated the people they betrayed, and that miscalculation became their downfall. We didn't destroy them out of spite or cruelty. We protected ourselves, established boundaries, and let their own actions create natural consequences. And in doing so, we'd cleared space in our lives for something infinitely better than what we'd lost. On our wedding day in September, surrounded by people who loved us, Julian and I made promises to each other about honesty and partnership and choosing each other every day. We'd both learned what betrayal looked like, what lies and manipulation felt like. We knew firsthand how devastating dishonesty could be, and that knowledge made our vows more meaningful. We weren't naive kids promising forever without understanding what it meant. We were adults who'd survived betrayal, who knew the value of trust and the cost of breaking it, who'd chosen each other deliberately and completely. As we danced at our reception, I caught sight of my reflection in the venue's mirrors. I looked happy in a way I'd never looked with Marcus. Genuinely at peace instead of constantly anxious about whether I was being a good enough girlfriend. Julian looked the same, relaxed and content, instead of the stressed, suspicious person he'd been with Vanessa. We'd won, not because we'd destroyed our enemies, though we had, but because we'd built something better from the ruins of what they'd destroyed. We'd turned betrayal into triumph, deception into honesty, cruelty into genuine love. Marcus and Vanessa had gambled everything on a life built from lies. They'd lost that bet completely, losing each other and themselves in the process. Meanwhile, Julian and I had built something real from our shared pain, something strong and lasting and true. They'd tried to steal our happiness. Instead, they'd given us each other. And that, more than any revenge we'd enacted, was the ultimate justice. We'd walked away with everything: better partners, better lives, better futures. And they'd walked away with nothing but the knowledge that they'd thrown away something valuable for a fantasy that crumbled the moment it faced reality. Justice served, revenge completed, happiness earned, and two lives rebuilt stronger than before.